सेनाओं ने भारत में बने हथियारों से दुश्मन को घुटने टेकने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया।
Rohan, what's the best part about building for Bharat?
Strategy is basically what not to do. Multiple of our products have been commissioned that actually saw light of day during Operation Sindoor. Some of our products were on the aircrafts that were used on the Akash anti-aircraft system, on the D4 counter-drone system that was widely spoken about. Some of our subsystems have been used, including power, including some of our digital subsystems. So what's happening is there is a lot of backfilling of orders and a new opportunity for companies to actually bring in new technologies, because there is just so much requirement. The armed forces or the end users are actually looking to try out new technologies, try out new products, because of the just large requirement that has actually come up. That has opened up doors for companies like us. One of the largest areas that we are trying to solve for is on the electronic warfare side of things, and that's where we feel there is a large scope of bringing in new solutions, because most of the existing solutions that we have are getting outdated, as you can see across wars.
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Adith Charlie. I'm going to be your host. And in season 1, I'm going to bring you up close and personal with the men and women who are making Atmanirbhar Bharat a reality in the defense space. We're going to be talking about stories of resilience, entrepreneurship, and first principles thinking. So let's get ready to meet India's Defencepreneurs. Rohan Gala, CEO and founder of Sanlayan Technologies. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining in.
Thanks for having me over, Adith. Pleasure to be here.
So first things first, the name of the company that you run is very intriguing to my mind. Tell us a little bit about the choice of this name, and with this name, what is it that you're trying to project to your biggest customer, which I assume is the government of India?
Yeah, so very interestingly, we are 3 founders who started this company, and when we were thinking about what we were trying to do, I think a recurring theme to us was trying to merge our experiences, trying to merge our learnings from different sectors, and that's where a theme of fusion actually was something that was very central to us.
Right.
Sanlayan actually means fusion in Sanskrit, and that's how on one train ride one of us actually came up with the name, and it stuck because that's kind of what we're trying to do with this approach in building the company. We're trying to merge the old with the new, bring in first principles thinking, behave like a startup, move quickly, but also respect the traditions and the kind of gravitas that is needed to actually build something in something as strategic as a defense. So that's kind of where we come from.
Understood. Why defense tech, right? Like I'm sure a couple of years back when you thought about donning the entrepreneur's hat, there were many sectors that were ripe for disruption. Why defense tech, which is in many ways a closed space, regulations are strong, purchase cycles are longer? Why would you enter into that kind of a space at this point in your personal career journey?
So all 3 of us were at a manufacturing company before this, and when we were transitioning out, thinking about what would be the next challenge to kind of take on, a couple of things were very clear to us, that India was looking like it was ready for disruptions across multiple large spaces, whether it's consumer tech, which has already happened, autos, which happened much earlier. We all felt that defense was a space that was underrepresented in startups, and actually becoming a need of the hour, given what's been happening on a global stage since 2020, 2021, where you have more and more disruption, more wars breaking out across the globe.
Right.
And so it made a lot of sense for us to look at defense as an area to apply our brains, apply our minds, and actually do a little bit of problem solving, so that the nation can actually reap rewards of what we've been able to do.
But was there a specific aha moment, a point in time, an event that really structured or crystallized this thinking?
So when we started doing our primary research, going out and talking to potential customers from multiple sectors, Defense was always one of them because my co-founder Abhijit spent almost the last 2 decades working in the defense sector, working across large companies.
Right.
And so when we were talking to users, what stood out to us is that there was a clear lack of very high quality talent in defense. There are of course thousands of MSMEs who've been at it, but there was a clear need from the end users, a clear need from some of the large DRDOs and DPSUs to actually bring in high quality talent, the kind that tech was able to attract over the last 10 or 15 years in India. And so that became something of an aha moment to us, where it seemed very clear to the end user that if there was great talent available, there were plenty of problem statements that they had, and they all wanted solutions to that, as of yesterday.
Right.
And that, urge and that burning desire kind of translated to us going deeper into seeing how we could get this across the line.
Fascinating. You talked about problem statements, right? Defense is a large space. Solutions were needed as of yesterday in some of the major areas. So what problem statements have you identified, and how does that sort of translate into the kind of products that you are building for this space?
So currently Sanlayan is, we're a conglomerate with multiple companies. We've acquired a couple of old companies on the way. In terms of the broad technology areas, we are mostly into defense electronics, and within that, we straddle between digital electronics, which would be mostly around FPGAs, software, hardware solutions, avionics, power electronics, and then most recently we've also started our radars and electronic warfare part of the business. So these are largely the technology areas we're in. With respect to problem statements across all of these, I think there are multiple areas that we're trying to solve, but one of the largest areas that we are trying to solve for is on the electronic warfare side of things, and that's where we feel there is a large scope of bringing in new solutions, because most of the existing solutions that we have are getting outdated, as you can see across wars across the globe.
Interesting. Rohan, to my mind, Operation Sindoor was a watershed moment in India's history. A lot of change is expected over the next 5 years or so in terms of defense procurement. Already the Ministry of Defense has said that 2025-26 is going to be the year of reforms. How do you look at some of these developments?
The Operation Sindoor obviously has brought a lot of the conversation around being resilient and having supply chains that are very strategic, to be self-grown, homegrown. And this has become a dinner table conversation, but this is something that we actually realized when we started the company a couple of years back, in terms of having the ability to have our own indigenous technology, because you can't always be you can't always have your supply chains that are risked by some of the global economies. What has happened since then, and because of Operation Sindoor, is that a lot of the systems and kind of weaponry that was manufactured over the last so many years have actually gone into active duty, because we haven't seen war at the kind of scale since that time. And so what's happening is there is a lot of backfilling of orders and a new opportunity for companies to actually bring in new technologies, because there is just so much requirement that the armed forces or the end users are actually looking to try out new technologies, try out new products, because of the just large requirement that has actually come up since Operation Sindoor. So that has opened up doors for companies like us and many others.
Fascinating. In 18 months of being in business, you've made the right kind of moves. You've gotten marquee investors on board, and I'll come to that in a second. But among your product suite, which is that one or two products that you are most excited about? And if you could tell us some information on how these have been deployed, maybe on the front lines, maybe at the back end, that would be very useful.
So like you said, it's only been 18 months and we're literally on day one of building out what we intend to build in terms of indigenous tech stack. But some of the very interesting problem statements that we're going after, and especially the challenging ones, are on radars and electronic warfare. We're essentially trying to build a tech stack that goes from concept design all the way to actually having our own software algorithms, and at the heart of it is about data security, not being dependent on foreign OEMs. And this is something that we are solving at mission critical speed, because we understand as warfare and combat evolves at the rate that it's evolving, this would become one of the largest areas of deterrence and actually having military strength
Right.
to be able to ensure that the stockpiles and the kind of technology we have ensures we don't have war rather than actually going to war.
Tell us a little bit about Dexel as a company. Which is the primary space in which they play, and what are the kind of orders that you're seeing for Dexel, especially post acquisition?
So Dexel has been around for 25 years and they've worked on multiple platforms, but one of their biggest strengths is on the avionics side. We're also expecting them to get a large order for one of the fighter fleets very, very soon. And because of this rich avionics experience, what we are now able to do is provide solutions that actually embed things like AI, quantum computing into newer platforms, into some of our legacy platforms, which give us an edge and are creating a large path for more and more products to kind of get into the fleets that we have.
I've been a journalist for nearly 2 decades now, and from the very beginning I've covered companies, especially IT services companies who work in India and work with PSUs and government organizations. One common refrain has always been that procurement cycles are longer, RFPs tend to focus a lot on the L1 aspect, the lowest bidder possible, and therefore it has never been a very lucrative sort of space for a lot of Indian IT services companies. Has that changed? If yes, then what has really been the push factor?
See, I think there's multiple angles to look at this. One, at the end of the day, you have to deliver products to the end user, and so it's not as as fast moving as, let's say, an IT services company would expect, right? But having said that, a lot of new reforms that have come through, starting 2020, 2021, have been towards ensuring that there's more private participation, ensuring that barriers for smaller companies are being removed fundamentally. You have things like TDF, IDEX, you have multiple reforms on the DCP, DAP kind of things, which are ensuring that companies with the right products, companies that are answering the problem statements of the end user, actually get an opportunity to present those products, actually get the funding, get the backing that is required to deliver products into the hands of the end user.
Right.
So I would say that things are moving at a very rapid pace. The way the government is buying, the way the government wants to include participation from private companies is evolving very, very rapidly.
Yeah.
Are we there yet? Probably not, but are we moving in the right direction? I would say 100%.
And I think the Ministry of Defense has called out 2025-26 as the year of reforms and the year of theaterization. Are these opportunities that you're looking forward to?
Absolutely. I mean, these are things that would just multiply the kind of opportunities that are available to everyone who's kind of a participant in this larger ecosystem. We're also looking forward to being a beneficiary of all the reforms that are going on, and along with our subsidiaries, we feel very confident that because of our relationships, because of the products that we've already delivered, and because of the vintage of what we've been doing, our understanding of the entire ecosystem, we stand to gain very handsomely from the reforms that will be coming up.
Any of your products are presently in active deployment?
A lot of our products, at least from the subsidiaries, are actively deployed, have been deployed for the last 2 or 3 decades across multiple platforms, whether it's air, land, sea, space. Some of them being fighter aircrafts, battle tanks, missile launchers, missiles, naval ships and submarines. So we have our products across all of the battlefronts.
So did any of your products actually see active duty during Operation Sindoor?
Yeah, multiple of our products have been commissioned that actually saw light of day during Operation Sindoor. So some of our products were on the aircrafts that were used. Some of our products were in the anti-aircraft guns and missile launchers that were used.
And specifically, could you call out what products these were?
So on the Akash anti-aircraft system, on the D4 counter drone system that was widely spoken about. Some of our subsystems have been used, including power, including some of our digital subsystems.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about entrepreneurship in defense tech. Now, this is a space that is getting a lot of action. The right kind of capital is chasing startups in this space. But in terms of attracting talent, how's the journey been so far in your 18 months as a company?
It's not the same as attracting talent for B2C, which was much easier, and people have seen how some of these companies have grown. I think there's two parts to this, right? People who are building in defense tech understand that this is not something where there's quick gratification, instant gratification. First of all, it requires people to have a passion for the industry.
Right.
Second of all, because of the longer product cycles, it's important that people come with that background of persisting through challenges, and rightfully so, right? When you're talking about mission critical products and services that will be used by the tri-forces in defending the sovereignty of India, you need to have the highest standards of quality, the highest standards of technology.
Right.
And so it requires a different kind of mental makeup in terms of how you build products. But having said that, given what has been transpiring over the last few years on the global stage, and also how policy is driving all the action in defense, like you mentioned, there is a lot of great talent now that's looking to really build hardware solutions, that's looking to work in mission-driven, mission-oriented companies like ours. And so it's about finding the right match, looking at people who come with that integrity, that passion to deliver on a mission, and have what it takes to actually build heads down.
You talked about your subsidiaries. I think Versabyte and Dexel are the two companies that you have acquired, and both of these companies come with rich legacy, 25 plus year old companies, both of them. Tell us a little bit about the integration, because as they say, culture eats strategy for breakfast, and generally when you have companies that are at very different stages of their life, from what I've heard and from what I've covered, integration does become a challenge. So how did you go about that aspect of getting culture coherent, culture fitment, and how do you make sure that the people are all aligned and directed towards a single mission?
This is actually something that we thought about a lot when we started the company, given we had a clear focus and mandate to go out and partner with companies, partner with MSMEs who were already present. We had a playbook in mind in terms of saying that how do we actually acquire, how do we look at these companies, how do we integrate. And so a couple of things that really stood out for us from the get-go was that first of all, we had to all be mission aligned. It becomes very easy to cut out the noise when the end goal is the same for both the parties. Secondly, also becomes very important that the traditional ways of thinking, there's an acquirer and an acquiree, is replaced by a more partnership model where we bring something to the table as a young startup who brings a lot of energy, that ability to move very quickly, velocity, and ability to bring in talent that typically older companies are not able to do, both talent and capital. And then of course the older companies, they bring in their relationships, they bring in their proven products, they bring in that metal of understanding how the ecosystem works, the sheer experience that cannot be solved because you can't really go against the physics of time. And that really helps solve a lot of debates or discussions where at the end of the day you have to sit across the table, hear each other's views, and then arrive at something that benefits one, the customer, and two, the company. And so once these goals are aligned, I think it becomes very easy to maneuver some of the difficulties that come with these two opposite worlds clashing.
I think the broad expectation is that future wars will be AI powered, AI enabled, both from a defensive as well as an offensive capability standpoint. How are you thinking about AI both at a product level and as well as at a back end level in terms of streamlining functions, in terms of how the day-to-day at the company works?
Yeah, I mean, it's the buzzword of I think the century, but how we look at AI largely in two buckets. One, how does it affect our users, and what can I do to make the user's life simple. So it's not very, simple to understand from outside, but when you are deploying at the edge, right, and by the edge it could be a border, it could be an aircraft, it becomes very difficult for us to be sitting remotely and do things that might seem simple otherwise, configuration management, edits to the kind of functionality that you can provide. But with AI, with the kind of self-learning that is possible with AI, what we're able to do is learn from operational scenarios and actually, create updates that don't need to be pushed by a team that is sitting so far away from the action. And so this significantly empowers the user. And secondly, we look at it from a design point of view as to how we can make our products better even before we ship to the user. And that's where some of the global libraries, machine learning, data that we get from having so many years of experience actually comes in, where we are able to design products much better, much faster. We're able to do iterative prototyping that helps us take products to market much faster. So I think these are large use cases that we're going after right now as a company, but the space is evolving very, very rapidly, as you already know. And so we're always ears on the ground trying to understand where we could deploy some of these advanced solutions.
Fascinating. As a defencepreneur, someone who's at the forefront of innovation, what keeps you awake at night?
I think just the sheer fact that we have so many things to solve. It's a long road ahead. India has been a country that typically imported most of their defense supplies, wares, ammunition. So I think the scale of the opportunity and just how much there is to do actually keeps our entire team awake at night and keeps on powering us.
So how do you prioritize which opportunities to go after? Because in my mind, strategy is also about subtracting, and strategy is a lot about focusing on key action items, key focus areas, and sort of making sure that the noise around is kind of subdued. So how do you make sure in a highly competitive environment where there is transformation happening across the board, which opportunities do you actually go after as a small company?
No, well said. I mean, something that we keep saying in our boardroom is that strategy is basically what not to do. Right. And so I think there's a couple of factors that we look at when we think about building long term and then balancing the short term, right? So given that opportunity space is transforming so rapidly, it's always tempting to go after multiple things. But every company, no matter the size, right, and us as a small company, someone who's been around only 18 months, it becomes even more important to ruthlessly prioritize and say no to so many things. So what keeps us going is that we've got a medium term kind of goal in terms of where we want to be as a product company, and so there's a clear product charter of how we want our product and technology to move. But we are always very, very close to the ground and always listening to what the user is saying, so that we're able to manage that gap between what's going to happen 2 years from now and what we can do today to either accelerate, decelerate, or change the direction in which we are going. So that is something that the leadership at the company is always thinking about, always talking about, debating and discussing on a day-to-day basis.
Let us in on the product charter and what the pipeline looks like. What products are you most excited about?
Multiple products. So from a Dexel point of view, we are looking at multiple new avionics solutions that will completely transform some of the largest fleets that we have in terms of their capabilities and how good they become because of these upgrades. From a Versabyte point of view, there's a bunch of high power applications that we're looking at, and some of them will be able to address the evolving threat of drones and swarm of drones. And from a Sanlayan point of view, we're, like I said, building on the radars and EW side. We're building a bunch of radars that will have multiple applications going from Army, Navy and Air Force. So these are largely areas that I think are big bucket items in terms of the company strategy.
Got it. And who would your top customers be within this framework?
So our top customers are everyone. At the end of the day, it's the government of India and the tri-forces that we supply to. But essentially, we want to work with large private system integrators. We want to work with the tri-forces directly because that's where the most amount of learning is. And then we want to work with all the design agencies, the DRDOs, space agencies, because a lot of action is now happening on the defense space side of things. So that's largely the width of our customers.
Got it. As a company, where do you see yourselves in, say, 5 years time frame? Is international expansion on the cards as well, or would you be an India-focused startup for the near term?
I think very near term, we're looking at just the opportunity space in India and looking to double down on what we've been doing and what our subsidiaries have been doing. We have a lot on our plate, but given India's ambitions from a global stage, and given the kind of technology that we are able to develop, given the kind of cost advantage that India has, we're definitely looking at some of the export markets to kind of see how our technology and applications can find use for some of the friendly countries that we export to.
Right. And in terms of the company's financials, what are you chasing more at this point? Is it growth, or is it growth backed by profitability?
See, I think none of those. We're actually chasing capability development. At the end of the day, we're an 18-month-old company. We've got our eyes set at a very, very large mission, which is to build radars for the country. Right. And so capability building is actually the forefront of what we are looking to do. But having said that, and very contrarian to most startups, we are actually profitable given we have given our subsidiaries, and so we are looking to grow sustainably and ensure that we're not just a flash in the pan.
Interesting. If I am an engineer in the manufacturing space, why should I join a company like Sanlayan?
Very interesting. This is something that we've picked up from some of the people that have joined us, something that we wanted to project when we started the company. So a couple of things. One, we are completely mission driven, and so if there is that passion that one has in terms of doing something at scale, for people who are out there at the front lines, there is nothing that could be as rewarding as working for a company like ours.
Right.
And secondly, when you're at a company that's growing quickly, a startup in a space that has all the tailwinds, that are there, where government reforms are coming year on year, the kind of career progression, the kind of exposure that you get is actually something that can completely change the trajectory of your career. And so right. For an engineer joining us, I think the sky is the limit in terms of both where the career can go, what kind of technologies they can see, and just what impact they can make on a day-to-day basis.
Interesting. Are you also actively looking to hire veterans?
Yeah, given the kind of deep interaction we have with end users, we do have a veteran program. We have a few veterans already working with us, both from an advisory and a full-time position. And we're always looking to, hire people who bring that lens of understanding very deeply the operational challenges, understanding what it takes for products to really work out there, where lab simulations are one thing, and then working at 5,000 meters altitude is a completely different thing. And so that is again part of that fusion that we speak about, right? We have engineers who are fresh out of college, who are kind of experienced maybe a few years, and then we have people who have 30 years of experience serving in the armed forces, and that exchange that happens with both of these groups is actually what moves the company forward day on day.
So what's the hiring roadmap like, given the kind of trajectory and given the kind of opportunities that are there in the pipeline? How many people are you planning to hire, say, over the next 12 months or so?
Look, we're constantly hiring. I mean, we've already tripled our number of employees in the last 6 odd months, and we're looking to further double from here. And across the group, we're already 300 plus people. So it's a fairly large team. But we're always looking for people, like I said, who are mission aligned, who understand the kind of challenges, who understand the operating requirements, and that's both a mix of veterans and a mix of energetic engineers who will come in and solve the problem at hand.
Got it. For someone who's interested in defense tech as a space, what would be your top advice especially someone who's just starting up and bustling with ideas in terms of what should be done, what problem statement they should be looking at?
For someone new entering the space, I think there's two parts, right? One is ideas are great, and I think the entire machinery and ecosystem is primed to accept ideas today. But also what one needs to realize is that the product life cycle from idea to concept to actually mass manufacturing is going to be a long and lengthy one.
Right.
You're going to be serving mission critical applications and products that need to undergo the highest level of testing, stringent quality norms. Some of these products will be in active duty commissioned for 10, 20, 25 years.
Right.
And so persistence is the name of the game. You need to be completely aligned to the mission. You need to be listening and hearing from the grounds up, and you need to ensure that you are completely clued in to the ever evolving needs and serving some of these products and services to the nation.
Since these are all mission critical systems that we are speaking about, how do you keep the bar on quality and testing really high?
See, at our company, this is something that's very, very core to us. It's one of our clearest cultural and philosophical values, that we need to have a very, very high bar for quality. And it starts right from hiring, the kind of people we would like to associate with, the kind of products, the kind of systems that we have in the company, the kind of rigorous documentation that follows, the kind of internal reviews and stage gates that we have to ensure that nothing but the best or nothing but the right quality actually goes to some of our customers. And then of course we work with the customers to ensure that final fine tuning, the final quality bars are actually passed along with the customers.
To all our viewers who are watching right now, is there any message that you would like to leave them with? See, defense as a space and the ecosystem is evolving very rapidly. I think it's very critical that we have homegrown technologies, very critical that we have a supply chain that's completely indigenous, to ensure that the sovereignty of the country is not under any doubt. And I'm very happy to say that I can see that sea of change around me. I'm very excited building in the space that I'm building, and would urge any entrepreneurs or people who are thinking about taking this leap to actually take that leap, because this is something that is extremely energizing and deeply fulfilling. That's it, folks, for this episode. Thank you so much for joining in. If this episode resonated with you, do share in your networks, and we'll be back soon with another inspiring story of a defencepreneur that is building for India.